Hey guys, sorry about that. I was stepped away for a second. How are you all? How's everyone's Christmas Eve going? Good? Bad? Medium? Snow days for any kids? Last day of school gone awry? I got a new cup when I was at Disneyland yesterday. Very exciting for me. And we're also going to do the advent calendar because we are like so woefully behind on it. So even though my husband's not here, I'm going to do the coffee advent calendar. Anyway, ouch, that's hot. Hello. It's Christmas That's funny. I've never heard that, but that is funny. So cute little mugs that shape. I know, it's a good shape. It's like a nice, good soup mug too. Okay, we are so woefully behind on this. Where are we? We did 7. We did 8. Did we do 9? We did 9. Did we do 10? We did 10. Great. Okay, we're not as behind as I thought. 11. Maybe over the next couple days we'll do multiple. Morning, Isabella. Oh no! You guys, this is a sweet vanilla decaf. I did not sleep last night. Decaf is not the move. I'm sure this is fine. I actually don't like their sweet vanilla flavor. Someone else will have to drink that. There's no world where right now I'm having a decaf coffee. I'm so sorry, but that is a hot pile of steaming no from me. Let's find 12. There's no world where I could have decaf right now. 12. Sorry about that. This is double espresso Sakuro. Okay, I can have this in addition to a coffee. We will try that. Yeah, are they kidding with decaf? I know, right? I will try this, and then we will also add coffee because I can't just have a shot. Morning, Amanda. It's a double shot, but it's still not going to be enough. So let's go ahead and get that going. I'll go get the milks. Morning, Liz. Okay. You guys want to hear something really sad? So I went to the grocery store the other day, barely like a week after the last time I went, and they had this. None left. Nothing left. I started Christmas Eve with my nephew, new traditions and all the families. I mean, that's cruel. Tell them that they should be thrilled. Why do they only stock the 0 sugar whipped cream for 1 week? Why are we only stocking delicious things for 1 week, you guys? Why are we doing this? Why can't it just be there all year round? Why can't I always have whipped cream? It's not even Christmas yet and they took it away. That feels cruel. Feels cruel. And I'm not pleased with their behavior. And my husband said, maybe it sold out because a lot of people bought it. And I said, that's fine, but if they think that a lot of people are going to buy it, then that should mean that they should double stock it instead of just stocking all the sugary ones. That's my opinion on the matter. But let's go ahead and taste this Sakura. You know what? It's nice. It's not that bitter. Pretty smooth. Yeah, honestly, I could drink that without the milk. I could do it. Yeah, that's not bad. Actually, that's really nice. I could have that just straight. That doesn't bother me. Okay, well, that's good to know. Let's get the real coffee. Where's 13? 13. This is a new shirt. It's a shirt, not a sweatshirt, but I understand the confusion, and a new mug because we went yesterday and my husband bought me the shirt. I bought that mug and I also bought him the Sully mug. You know how his favorite mug is this Mike mug? There was a matching Sully one, so I bought him that. I wouldn't necessarily skip the decaf ones, but like at this hour of the morning, I can't be having decaf. Like this afternoon, I'm okay with a decaf, but like right now, like be for real with me. Yeah, this is so cute. And we got baby girl a matching sweatshirt, but Okay, this one is sweet almond hibiscus. I'm gonna tell you guys something. I tried the sweet almond hibiscus and I am not a fan, so I'm gonna save this one for my husband because he does like it. I had a sleeve of it. I tried it. I usually like almond things. It didn't do it for me. It wasn't bitter or anything. I didn't like the flavor. So I'm just gonna save that because I know he likes it. So like, why waste it on someone who doesn't want it? Yeah, it wasn't for me. That's all I'm going to say on that one. So that was number 13. So let's get 14 and hope that I get a coffee I can actually drink. Like, let's go, you guys. Mama needs coffee. This is Bianco Piccolo. Okay, it's just a single shot. I have a double shot in there. You know what I can do? I have a double shot. I'll add this third shot, and then I'll put a decaf shot in there or whatever, and then that should be fine. You know what? It's fine. Yeah, we'll just go with it. Yeah. Or maybe like, I don't know. It looks like the Cool Whip has 0 sugar, so you might be able to get one of the... Yeah, but it's not the same in coffee, you know? Like if I was putting it on a dessert or something, that would be one thing, but I put it in my coffee, and I feel like Cool Whip and coffee might be a little, like, oily, you know? I could be wrong, but I think it is a 3-shot kind of day. No, for real, it's a 3-shot kind of day. But like, is that enough? What is Cool Whip? I've heard of it. It's like a fake whipped cream, but not whipped cream. Oh, 3 a.m. wasn't even the first time I was up, girl. That was like the 7th time or 5th or something. I don't know. Did you also have a rough night? That's enough from you. Attitude. Why is my coffee maker giving me attitude right now? I don't know. Okay, do we have a decaf something that I could add to this to just pump it up a little? Or am I just adding a 4th shot? That seems dangerous. Hydrogen oil, non-dairy whipped cream. Yeah, exactly. That's why I felt like in coffee it might not do the trick. Yeah. Huh. You know what? I do have these. I bought these because my husband's friend only likes decaf when he comes over, so I bought these decaf shots. So I can add this decaf double shot to my coffee and call it a day. You have Fred Meyer there. We don't. We do not have Fred Meyer here. I think that's a Pacific Northwest only thing. I did grow up going to it when I lived in Washington, but I do not. I have never seen one in California, ever. But when I was young and we lived in Washington, I used to buy craft supplies at Fred Meyer. They have the Ready Whip. Yeah, I mean, our Ralph's has it sometimes, you know what I mean? Which is such a bummer. But like, why sometimes, you know? Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. In case you're wondering where hey Renee, the child and my husband are, they went for a walk because she was wholeheartedly fighting napping. So he was like, we're going for a walk. He has off today, so that, you know, means that this is such a small amount left. This is my sad last whipped cream for my coffee. Sad. I love that they're like the serving size for this is 2 tablespoons. I'm like, lol, how about the whole can? Shake well 4 times. Oh, jeez, I didn't know there was a number. Okay. It's one of my favorites. You can buy milk, makeup, and jeans. Yeah, and craft supplies. I used to buy like my beads and stuff if I wanted to make like bracelets or whatever, you know? That's it. I knew it was the last day of it. How sad. Wah, wah. The saddest girl that ever was. The saddest girl that ever was. Whatever, at least my coffee's good. All right, so We missed yesterday because we went to Disneyland, but it was great. And we'll catch up today. We will read. We will have a great time. That is what we will do right now. And I remembered my glasses. They are already on top of my head, so I don't have to go run and get them. Fingers crossed for Dad to find a play friend while they're out. Oh, yeah, right. That's never going to happen. That's funny. That's funny, Ray. That's funny. You're cute. You're cute. Yeah, our neighborhood it's a weird one. It's weird. I don't know what to do with it. We're probably going to move next year, you know, for multiple different reasons, but, you know, among them, the fact that the moms in this neighborhood it's real weird. Morning, Brittany. Like, okay, for example, I'm gonna tell you guys this. So after I like went through all that stuff where I just like had tried so hard to get her like friends and like whatever and stuff like that, I just gave up, right? I was like, well, nobody in this neighborhood wants to make plans for like even just to all I'm trying to do is take the kids to the park. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be your bestie. I just want the kids to sit on a blanket together and play, you know, whatever. So I gave up. So then my husband and I, one afternoon, we were like, let's go get boba. So we walk over into the center here to the boba place, and there is a person sitting there with a baby similar age. And so we're just talking, you know, whatever. And this woman is practically like, to hear my husband tell it, and I felt the same way, but I was like, am I imagining it? Because clearly I've been wrong so many times. Like, she was basically like really severely hinting that we should get the girls together to play. You know what I mean? And she even was like, oh, well, I take her to the place that I take her to baby classes. I usually go on Tuesdays, but she was like, I go on Fridays because I work. Maybe you could come on Fridays so that they could play, blah, 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 blah. I will try that, Amanda. I will look today. And she was like saying all that stuff. And so I was like, gosh, wow, she really sounds like she wants to have play dates with these girls. Like, okay, cool. So I said, do you have Instagram? We can exchange Instagrams and then we can message about it. And she was like, yeah. So she followed me on Instagram. I followed her on Instagram, and I messaged her as soon as I got home. I was like, hey, it was so great to meet you. I would love to take the girls to the park anytime to play. I'm always around anytime you want to play. I'd love to have a play date. Read the message, didn't respond. I was like, okay. And it's been over a week. So then you're, I mean, like, if it had been like a couple hours, you think like, okay, give people time. But like after a week, you're like, never mind. But like, why were you telling me to come on the day that you go to, so they can play? Like, you know, like, all I'm trying to, like, I don't need to be your friend. I have wonderful friends. I don't need friends. My baby needs friends because she's too little to make them on her own. So I have to make friends for her. It's so bizarre. Like, what? Because like at first I wasn't going to offer anything, but she was like really like pushing it. She was like, oh man, like I don't have any friends for her. I'd really love to have friends for her. And she kept saying the same kind of stuff that I always say. And I was like, well, so I took the shot and I was like, hey, and when we walked away, my husband was like, I was so scared that you weren't going to like connect with her because she was practically begging you to be her friend or like for the babies. And I was like, yeah, that's what I felt like too. And then he was like, you should totally message her. And then when I didn't, she didn't respond. He was like, I give up. Like, I can't read them either. Because I thought it was me. I thought I was crazy. And then he was there. She's Jewish and she posts all the same kind of political stuff I do. So like, this whole neighborhood politically aligns pretty much. Like, there's no one red in our neighborhood. This is like a solidly blue neighborhood. Even the people who are crazy Christians in this neighborhood are also Democrats. Like, I know some people who are like church people in this neighborhood, but they're like Democratic church people. So like, we're I mean, like, you can't really live in this neighborhood and be red. It would be really hard. So it's just, hey, Anya, congratulations, by the way. It's just one of those weird things. You know, and I don't know, it's a bizarro, but anyway, let's read while they are out on their walk so that we can get some distracted by looking at nail places. Hey, nails are great. I haven't got my nails done in a long time. That sounds fun. It's a crazy time of year though. It is, but the least you could do is respond and be like, hey, yeah, that would be great sometime as soon as we get back from the holidays or whatever like that. You know what I mean?
my ADHD and anxiety gets punished wrong. Yeah, I can understand that, but then why did she start the conversation? You know what I mean? Like, we weren't approaching her. She talked to us first. So, like, why do that then if you're not going to ever respond? Like, it's a weird thing to do, to be like, oh my God, we have babies the same age, and then just, like, ghost. You know what I mean? Like, that's weird. It's a strange choice. And it is a choice to read a message and not respond. Yeah, that's possible, Jen. That's possible. But then, like, she also came, I came to the Friday baby class like she asked, and she didn't even stay in class with her daughter. She had a nanny come in with her and then left. So, like, she didn't even stay in the class, so we couldn't even, like, she was like, oh, hey, you're here, and then left. I was like, oh. And she left her daughter there with a nanny that doesn't speak English, so we couldn't plan a play date because they don't speak English. And I don't speak, she didn't even say what she just, like, wouldn't even say what, like, I was like, oh, hi, how are you? Like, trying to, like, whatever. And, like, I can fake Spanish a little bit, but she would just, like, not speak. And I was like, okay, never mind then. I don't know what to do there. It's also, like, there's a lot of parents in this neighborhood that I have to wonder what's up with them, because they burn through nannies really quickly. And having been a nanny, I know it's not the kid. Like, when a kid is under 2 years old, it's not the kid. You know what I mean? Someone who's being a nanny doesn't mind, you know, whatever things. It's a parent problem. And so when I see a kid with different nannies all the time, I'm always like, there's one little boy who I think is the sweetest little boy. He climbs up in my lap in classes, wants high fives, wants to cuddle, whatever like that. I've seen him with 4 different nannies in the last 3 months. He's gonna have an attachment problem, because how does he get attached to anyone if they're always just gone? He's almost 1.5. He turned 1 a couple months ago, and he's so sweet. He's such a sweet little boy. He's a little scared of stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like, this is a scared little boy, but I don't blame him, because if I had people coming in and out all the time, I'd be scared too, you know? And, like, his current nanny never comes to class on time, even when she is right outside at the beginning of class. Like, the first couple of times that they were late to class, I just assumed that she was the type of person that just, like, always ran late and couldn't get there on time, and that's why she was late. And then last week, I was outside of class, and she was sitting at a table about 10 feet away from the entrance of the building eating lunch. And I was like, oh, they're coming to class today, so-and-so. And we waved to them. We said, hi. And then we came inside, and it was time for class, and they weren't in there. And I looked at the teacher and I was like, oh my gosh, I really thought that insert kid's name here was coming today, because I saw them right outside. And she was like, oh yeah, they're signed up. They just refused to come on time. You're 10 feet from the door. How are you still late? Maybe it's so she doesn't have to talk to people, but it also means that she never gets to introduce him. Like, we have this thing where we go around and you say all of the kids' names and everyone says, hi, whoever they are, and then we do their intro stuff and they do their little exercises. They miss all of that every time. So he never gets that experience. You know, it's a detriment to him. It really is. Like, well, why are you paying for this? It's expensive. These classes are not cheap, you guys. Like, I pay out the behind to take her to these classes, you know? So these parents are paying for her to just sit outside and not go in. It's weird. I mean, you said it's an arty pop area. They probably only had kids as an accessory. My husband said the same thing, right? You guys are literally right. My heart is broken, Amanda. He said the same thing. He was like, these people are having kids because they think it's the thing to do, but they don't actually do anything with them. They don't talk to, like, you see, like, on the weekends when the parents have to go to the park with them or whatever, the parents just sit there on their cell phones and the kids just sit there silently. And, like, the kids usually come over and end up crawling around our blanket and playing with our toys, which I have no problem with. I welcome them every time. But it's because their parents are just on their phones. They're not paying attention to them, so why wouldn't they come play with us? Because I'm playing with her. I only take my phone out if I'm taking videos or pictures of her, which, granted, I do take a lot of videos and pictures of her, but it's different. I have such empathy for the kids, infinite empathy for them. The parents, I have zero for. because they made that choice. These are not young. No one in our neighborhood is young. This is not a neighborhood of young people. These parents, we're talking 30s and plus. You know what I mean? So you made this choice. This was not an accident. You know what I mean? No one who's married in their 30s and up, not no one, but most people married in their 30s and up in a neighborhood like this are not accidentally having children. You know what I mean? We're not talking about like a 19-year-old who accidentally got pregnant. These were purposeful choices. I know it's really hard, Amanda, because they're so sweet. But anyway, I've babbled enough. Let's read because we're a day behind because we didn't read yesterday. So let's get into it and we can talk about these poor sweet babies later. And then to ignore them. I know, please. You're preaching to the choir. And people look at me. One more thing I'm going to say is people look at me and talk to me like I'm crazy for the way that I talk to my daughter. Because when I walk around with her, whether I'm carrying her, whether she's in the stroller, I just kind of narrate everything. Or I talk to her like I'm having a conversation, even though I know she can't talk back. But I don't want to just sit there with her in silence. So if we're walking down the street, I'll be like, okay. So the things that we have to do after we do this, we're going to go to get the grocery stuff. What are the things that we need to get? And I'll list for her all the groceries we need to get. And then I'll say, and when we're on our way back, we have to stop and get the mail. And we also need to go to the mail room because there's presents in there for dad and then we're going to have to wrap them. And we have to do it secretly. So we're probably going to wrap them in your room so that dad can't see us do it, because if he sees us, then he's going to know what, and I kind of talk to her like that, just like I would talk to anyone else. And people look at me like I'm insane on the street, but she is right there. And then we went to that baby birthday party on Saturday and all the adults were like, she connects with everyone. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh yeah. And they were like, no, not oh yeah. Other babies don't do that. Like she crawls up to each person and connects with them in the eye and waves at them and like she's with them, And she can't really talk yet. She has a couple words, not a lot, but she will. And when she does, and she also does, and like now because I talk to her and I make eye contact with her, if we're somewhere and someone doesn't make eye contact with her, she does this now. She goes and like tilts her head to get them to look at her because she doesn't understand why they're not making eye contact with her. Because to her, that's normal. So she'll like go up to other kids or adults at like other things and she goes like this. And like, oh yeah, she totally babbles. Like whenever we're on FaceTime with my mom, like we don't do screen time for her, but we do FaceTime with family members that we do. Because I read a lot of studies that it's not really the same. So the issue with screen time for babies her age is, she did request the water bottle, that's true. And she's even more now than then. Like when you came, Amanda, she was like, when she's first meeting someone, she's kind of quiet, but then she like warms up. But I read a lot of studies that have said that it's when screen time replaces interaction that it's a problem, but especially if it's someone that they know in real life that they're seeing in it, it's not the same kind of cognitive issue as just like scrolling on YouTube, for example, or whatever, so I'm okay with that. And I'm even okay with her watching videos of her cousins talking to her, and things like that. I kind of love those as well. But anyway, good afternoon. Can anyone, okay. So that is just what we're gonna do here. There we go. So yeah, anyway, let's go ahead and read now that we've had our full discussion of the parents in my neighborhood for the day. We are on chapter 25. And chapter 25 is called, Who is Frank Jordan? We didn't want to stop digging, but we knew it was time to get food or we'd drop. So we said goodbye to Edith and we asked if we could come another day to find more, and we made our way to Moonbeam Mugs for a bite. So how are we going to find this guy? I asked, biting into a BLT. The town isn't that big. Surely someone must know him. I raised an eyebrow, sipping my coffee. Who do I know that knows people that we were already that far into their career when my mother was alive? Edward was enjoying a platter of fish and chips, shrugging as he popped a fry into his mouth. Oh, I don't know. Mikey, Edith, Pearl, your father, all of them are old enough to possibly know who this guy is, especially Pearl, right? Huh. I nodded in agreement. I guess we could ask her. You kids know that the yellow pages still work, right? The voice came from behind the counter. The whole place was nearly empty, so it wasn't hard to recognize that it had come from Maureen Donnelly, who was clearly eavesdropping on us. They do? I was actually surprised to hear this. I mean, I haven't seen one in ages. Baby girl, they've got a whole website just like everybody else. People still gotta look one another up. So we did just that. We looked him up. Exactly 4 men named Frank Jordan were living in the greater Clatsop County area. One technically lives in the area, but when we called his number, his mom told us that he was away at Oregon State University, so we knew he was way too young. Another screamed at us that the commies were coming and to take us, and he hung up the phone. Well, I suppose technically that could be him, but I'm really hoping it wasn't. And Edward laughed at my non-joke, took my cell phone as he looked over the last 2 entries. This one's near where Edith lives, right? He pointed at an address on the screen. Why don't we just go there in person? An ambush? He shrugged. Kind of, yes. Isn't he less likely to lie if he's looking you in the eye? Emma, I've seen photos of your mother. You're not identical, but the resemblance is there. Maybe your presence will make him so riddled with guilt that he'll spill the beans. I pulled back. You think I look like my mom? Emma, you're literally a half and half split of your mother and your father. But now, come on, finish your BLT and let's go. He says, finish your beat. I corrected it, reading it the way that I would correct anything. That's really funny. It actually says, finish up your BTL and let's go. BLT, I corrected him. I've heard it both ways. To Nikki, who asked if there were any inside jokes in this, the I've heard it both ways thing is a joke for my husband, because anytime he gets something like that wrong and I correct him, he goes, I've heard it both ways. Obviously joking, he can take a correction, but like if it's something meaningless like a BLT or whatever, he goes, oh, I've heard it both ways. He hasn't. And I always go, no, you have not. No one says BTL. You have not heard it both ways. Finding Frank Jordan. Emma. I have to tell you something. Edward looked over at me as we parked in front of the house next to Frank Jordan's. Yeah? I asked, unbuckling my seatbelt. Never in all the years that I've been alive have I knocked on more doors of unknown individuals than I have in the time that I have spent in Astoria. That made me laugh. Honestly, before I decided to run for city council, the last time I rang anyone's doorbell was during trick-or-treat as a kid. I think it's more circumstantial than Astorian. Edward didn't look like he believed me. All right. Sorry, wrong voice. All right, here goes nothing, I said, and I reached out to ring the bell. Moments of nothing passed and we exchanged glances, unsure if anyone was going to answer. Your friend says it, they say gyro? Is that what they say? Gyro. Like, I don't know what to even compare that to. And then we heard the sound of footsteps down the stairs inside the home and got hopeful. A young woman answered the door. She looked around our age. Can I help you? Hey, hi. I made a small wave. Hello, Edward said in a sing-songy tone, and I cleared my throat. Hi, yeah, so is this the home of Frank Jordan? The woman looked at us suspiciously. Who's asking? I grabbed Edward's arm again to stop him the minute he launched into his introduction again. My mom used to work with him. She worked under the mayor's office. She died some years back, and I'm putting together some of her old research. I thought maybe he could help me out. She softened when I mentioned that my mom had passed. This was the one and only benefit of losing your mother earlier than others at my age. I could use a girl without a mom card to garner sympathy. Naturally, I only used it in extreme circumstances, but I think that mom would approve in this case. Oh, yeah, of course, the woman replied, stepping aside to wave us in. He's just in the kitchen making some tea. Let me grab him. Dad, she called out behind herself. We've got guests. This place was the antithesis of my dad's house. Where Dad was a bit on the messy side, probably with hoarder tendencies, this home was pristine. Well kept, no tchotchkes. The couch wasn't the old-timey florals of Edith's house, nor was it the worse for the wear one like Dad's. No, this man had a leather couch that looked like he used conditioner on it. Please, have a seat, the daughter motioned to the couch. Thank you, Edward answered for both of us, and I looked around. When the man, Frank Jordan I assumed, appeared in the doorway to his living room, it seemed that Edward was right. The guy looked like he had seen a ghost. Jane? He narrowed his eyes, squinting in my direction. Emma, I replied. Oh. He nodded his head and came to sit across from Edward and me. How can I help you? We exchanged glances again. How, I thought to myself, does one start a conversation like this? We all sat in silence for what felt like eons, but couldn't have been more than a few minutes. It must have gotten to Edward before it became too much for me, because he spoke up first. Mr. Jordan, his voice was soft and slower than usual. I'm not going to beat around the bush. We found some pretty damning evidence that suggests a cover-up the current mayor has been a part of for 2 decades or more, and that you... Yes? The man encouraged Edward to continue, not about to give up any information. Well, that you were working in the city financial department when... Oh, sorry, wrong voice. That you were working in the city financial department when my mom worked for the city as well, and that she was fired from her job merely for asking you to provide some sort of key documents pertaining to the Whitelock Isles and the taxes that we are supposed to be paying to the king there? It felt like word vomit. The information flew out of my mouth without control for my brain, or what was left of it anyway. It's my understanding that your mom passed on, so what are you hoping to gain by coming here today to berate an old man? Well, we were actually hoping that you'd be willing to help us. Edward scooched forward on the couch, sitting toward the edge now. With exposing the mayor, I said, and Frank Jordan seemed to choke on his own spit. He started to cough out of nowhere. Excuse me? We want to show Keating for who he is and what he's done, live, on stage. And, Edward continued, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you probably know even more than we do. You were given that you were the money man. My partner in this mock shakedown crossed his arms over his chest in an attempt to look tough. And if I'm being honest, it did nothing more than accentuate the arm muscles beneath the tight sleeves of his button-down. Always a button-down with this guy. What is it that you think I know, or you think I can do for you? I think you were helping the mayor hide the fact that we've actually been under Whitelock's rule for hundreds of years. Why did you do it? I asked. The mayor, Mr. Jordan cleared his throat, can be very persuasive. So you're not denying it? Edward asked, and Frank shook his head. I know who you are. It's not as though no one's aware you're in town. You have made quite a splash. Edward smiled at that. Okay, I said. Then what was his reason? And the man just shrugged. Money? You kids will learn that in this world, if there's anything untoward going on, it always comes down to money. That much is obvious, or it wouldn't have led us here to you. You turned down my mom in asking for financial records, right? Did he pay you off to do that? Did you know that he was going to fire her when you added him to that email, or did you just do it to cover your own ass? My voice got harsh, and I could feel Edward's eyes on me. He rested a hand on my leg, as usual, in an attempt to quietly calm me. Emma just wants to get to the bottom of what happened with her mother, and beyond that, we need to get Mayor Keating out of control of Astoria. And what makes you think I'm not working with Keating? If you really believe all you've said, then why come here? Why even ask me for help? Aren't you just setting yourselves up to get caught? There's nothing to get caught on when this is all true. We're not hiding anything. We're trying to expose the truth, was my explanation. All right. And what is it you hope to gain? His eyes were fixed on me now. You've fallen for some foreign dignitary, and you're going to do his dirty work and put him in power, and then what? Be the first lady of Astoria? I'll thank you to not speak to her that way. Edward made a move like he might stand up. We came here to ask you for help, but if you came here to give me a piece of your mind. Frank Jordan raised his voice, causing both of us to shrink back down. You think you can just come into people's homes and chastise them and then expect them to want to help you? The young woman who'd answered the door must have heard the raise in her father's voice because she stepped into the room. Dad, you're getting all worked up. He looked at her and nodded somberly. I'm going to take my tea and go upstairs and lie down. She reached for his arm to help him stand, and Frank Jordan made his way toward the stairs. You kids better watch yourselves. That's all I'm going to say. Was that a threat? Edward asked me quietly when the man left the room. I kept blinking, unable to process the way that things had just gone down. I didn't think meeting this stranger would be a piece of cake, but I also didn't think it would have him leaving in a huff either. Maybe I should have expected that. Nothing about this had ever been easy. How many times did I have to tell Sarah Beth that our life wasn't a Hallmark movie before she'd actually believe me? Sorry about him, Frank's daughter said once he was upstairs. He's, she shrugged, unable to think of an appropriate word. Grouchy? Grinchy is more like it, Edward offered, motioning to the meager Christmas decorations around their home. Both she and I laughed quietly, almost awkwardly and forced. A painful silence hung in the air between the three of us before I decided to go out on a limb. Hey, listen, you're not interested in helping us, are you? How do you mean? she asked, not totally shutting us down. Well, I sighed more dramatically than I had initially intended. Your dad used to work with my mom. Sorta. What does sorta mean in this context? She asked, and Edward answered me before he felt the pause hit. Both in government, different departments, he said simply, not making it flowery like I no doubt would have. Exactly, I pointed at him to confirm what he'd said. Look, I don't want to sound like I'm accusing your father of something, but it looks like he might have been part of a cover-up scheme with the mayor. Maybe he was forced, maybe he was paid off. I have no idea. But my mom started snooping around for answers, and she was immediately fired. And my dad was involved in her firing? How? Edward puffed up his cheeks. Well, that's what we came to find out. The last emails between them before the firing were her asking about the tax money being paid to my father. Tax money being paid... Who is your father? Oh boy, here we go. I am so sorry. I held a hand out to stop Edward before he could launch into the whole torrid story. We never caught your name. True. Incredibly rude of us, Edward added, wanting to smack my forehead. Half the time this man was just absolutely wonderful with interpersonal relations, but the other time he was a himbo. Anne-Marie, she said softly, not ready to let go of the previous question. But now what's this about my father, your father, and taxes, and my father getting your mother fired? I'm really not following the story. I took a deep breath and launched in. Okay, so long story short, apparently Astoria is actually owned by a small European monarchy off the coast of England called the Whitelock Isles, and it appears that England gifted us to them during their liberation in the 1800s, and ever since then we have been, like, not American, or, I mean, I suppose we never were American. God, I was word vomiting again. Anyway, Edward here is the Prince of Whitelock, and he came to see why the place was so mismanaged by Keating. Upon meeting him, he pretended to have no idea about Edward or Whitelock, but then we found some articles that suggest otherwise, including some pieces about Keating's grandfather, who I guess was also the mayor about 75 years ago, and honestly, I think he was probably involved in the Great Fire of 1922 here in town. But what brought us here is the fact that my mom asked your dad for financial records of the taxes being sent to Whitelock and what they do for us in return, and then he CC'd Keating on it and got her fired. Anne-Marie looked like her head was spinning. She blinked at us a bunch of times, trying to soak in the mile-a-minute explanation that I had just given her. Edward cleared his throat. What Emma is trying to say is that we were hoping to prove that your father wasn't a part of the scheme, so much that he was just at Keating's mercy and forced to do his dirty dealings. Oh, this is smart. Edward turned an accusation into a softball in our court to help us. I picked up the torch and added, if you could get your dad to expose Keating with us, he would probably feel really good about being out from under his thumb. He's been retired for years now, but this would clear his conscience. She looked like she was actually considering it, looking at Edward, searching his face for some kind of proof that he was royal. Are you actually a prince? He nodded. Prince Edward Grafton Windermere III, Duke of Finsgate. He said the whole title, and she softened the same way everyone did when he laid it on thick. And you're sure that my dad was involved? I nodded. Yeah. We have the emails to prove that, at least. We just need more. And if you could come to the rally on Wednesday, Edward here is holding a meet and greet, and then I'll be debating my opponent for city council. And what do you want him to do there? Edward rested his elbows on his knee. Ultimately, we would love one of two things. Or both, I piped in. Or both, he repeated. If your father has any emails or documents showing that Mayor Keating did in fact know about Astoria being owned by Whitelock, or records of the payments that he'd been making to our government, well, that would work. We would take them, we'd show them out publicly, or he could come on stage with Emma and he could out the mayor's shady dealings and practices, governmental dealings, whatever you want to call them. Or both, I added again. Yes, Edward nodded. Or he could bring the documents on stage himself and read them out to the public. How do you know those documents even exist? Edward reached into his pocket and pulled out the emails we'd been mulling over for the last day, showing my mom's correspondence with Anne-Marie's dad. He unfolded them and handed them over. Be sure to make note of where your father includes Keating in the exchange, and then Emma's mother Jane is fired but days later. She took the papers, slowly taking in the material in front of her. She'd been right to ask questions. Who were we? Just two strangers who showed up on her dad's doorstep with wild claims, but here it was. Her dad's own words, his email in black and white. There was no denying what she was reading. Okay, Anne-Marie nodded. I'll do it. She seems like a good egg. She's trying. Poor Anne-Marie. Poor all of them, actually. Except Keating. Grrr. Chapter 26. Debate Prep. Would you both please introduce yourselves? Always write emails like a lawyer's reading it. Yeah, well, Anne-Marie's dad pretty much did, right? I mean, kinda, right? Yeah. Would you please introduce yourselves? Sarah Beth asked from behind the counter. We put together a mock debate to help prepare me for the next day when I would be up on stage in front of however many historians came out to meet Edward. I'd have to speak clearly about my plans for our future, and to say that I was nervous was a grave understatement. Hi, I added a wave for effect. Mikey told us to go all out and hold nothing back and act like this was the real deal. My name is Emma Prescott. I'm a small business owner and local here in Astoria, born and raised. Woohoo! I pumped my fist in the air like a cheer, and then I thought better of it, cringing at my own behavior. You know what? Can I start over? Sarah Beth nodded. Yes, but then we must move on, Miss Prescott. Geez, Miss Prescott? Mikey said to act professional. Ugh. Okay, fine. Hi, I waved again. I'm Emma Prescott. Some of you may know me from growing up with me here in Astoria, and others of you are familiar faces over at Read Between the Vines, my bookstore wine bar. I am running for city council in the 3rd District, and I hope to make changes that better Astoria and Astorians for generations to come. So sweet. Sarah Beth touched her heart. And you, sir? She asked, turning to Edward, who was playing the part of my opponent in this exercise. Hello there. Edward's accent was gone, and in place of his British-sounding cadence was a plain, almost Southern-sounding lilt that wasn't exactly of the people of our area, but it did throw me off a little. You all know me. I'm Jeremiah Bell, your longtime loyal and dedicated city council member for the 3rd District. I'm here today to uphold the ideals and principles that make Astoria an amazing place to live, as it has always been. Yikes. Way to lay it on thick, I glared at him. Emma, please, take this seriously, Sarah Beth smacked the counter. Come on, you know how much you hated debate class in high school? This is that on steroids. Focus! Now, each of you will have a maximum of 1 minute to answer each question. We'll begin with the challenger, and then you, Mr. Bell. Edward nodded in agreement. First question, Sarah Beth started right in. How do you plan to address the housing crisis and the overall homelessness here in Astoria? Jumping right into the deep end, I said with a huff. Okay, well, first of all, we need to assess what has been the cause of the crisis. It's an influx of new Astorians, maybe, or is it the loss of jobs causing people who already live here not to be able to make mortgages and the like? Or maybe it's both. I need to get into the city records, and once we have a look at the cause, we can come up with a solid plan to move forward and get people homed. Yeah, a little bit, Brittany. Homed? Mikey asked from his spot in the back, beer in hand. That sounds like you're finding a home for a stray puppy. Ugh! I balled up my fists and then tried again. Once we see what the root cause of the issue is, then we can work toward rectifying the homelessness issue plaguing our town. Better, Mikey nodded. Mr. Bell, Sarah Beth turned to Edward now, what is your opinion on our school system, and then how do you plan to improve it? Edward stood up straight, leaning forward across the table. He was using his makeshift podium, speaking now as Jeremiah. Well, needless to say, I'm extremely proud of the teachers and staff of the Astorian school system. They work tirelessly to provide the next generation with the education needed to go out and make something of themselves in this world. That said, Astoria's kids deserve the best, and we on the city council always strive to allocate more city financing to them each year, ensuring that everything from in-class materials to after-school programs are properly funded. I shot him a look. What the heck? Edward just shrugged, and Sarah Beth continued. Okay, next question goes to Miss Prescott. What strategies do you have for fostering economic growth and supporting small businesses? Well, I said to give myself a moment of pause and think. As a small business owner here in Astoria myself, I'm acutely familiar with the trials and tribulations that my fellow small business owners deal with. My father and grandfather before him were also business owners here in Astoria. It's a long-standing tradition in our family. Moderator, Edward busted in. She's grandstanding and not answering the question. My mouth dropped open. What the heck was this man trying to do? Throw me off my game? I'm allowed to give context for my answer, am I not? Edward shrugged. I'm just trying to do what he might do. What Keating would do, Sarah Beth corrected. Jeremiah Bell doesn't have 2 brain cells to rub together, but I could totally see Keating interrupting you on his behalf. He's right. Is he allowed to do that? Mikey asked. Sarah Beth shrugged. No clue. But when has he ever done what he's been allowed to do? Good point. Mikey nodded. Whatever. Why can't I tell people that my family's full of long-standing Astorian business owners to set up my answer? No real reason, Edward shrugged, except that you only have 1 minute and you really need to get to it. Fine, I gritted my teeth. As the youngest in a line of Astorian small business owners, the plight of those dealing with the failing businesses in the area isn't lost on me. Our city has lost massive amounts of tourism dollars due almost entirely to the pier and other structural failures going into disrepair. It is a priority of mine to reallocate city funding toward these repairs and show people the destination that Astoria was and will be again. We will bring consumer dollars back to this town. Wonderful. Sarah Beth finally smiled at me. That was a really good one. Mr. Bell, you're next. He nodded and she continued. Can you speak to your plans for community healthcare access? We are proud of the healthcare services our city currently offers. Our focus has always been on ensuring that our residents receive the help they need. We continue to support all local providers and are committed to making healthcare accessible and affordable for all. Going forward, we will keep monitoring our healthcare system's performance and make adjustments as necessary to maintain a high standard of care that our community has come to expect and deserves. Seriously? I snapped toward him. What kind of answer is that? One that someone who doesn't want to rock the boat would give. And you think Belle would come up with that? Probably not, Edward said, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be prepared for it. I need a break. I shot back, moving away from the table that had been my fake podium and toward the back of the room where I kept my desk. I figured that Sarah Beth would come after me and I could vent, but somehow my best friend in her infinite wisdom allowed Edward to follow me instead. There were a couple minutes of solidarity and silence in my office before the knock came on the door frame. I hadn't shut it completely and I could see him peeking in. Hey, was his half in, half out of the door response, trying to look like he wasn't imposing, but he clearly wanted to come in. Hey, may I? He asked, too polite for this situation or this stage in our whatever this was. I motioned to the seat across from me, but Edward moved closer and sat on the desk instead, his knees close enough that I could have rested an elbow on one if I wanted. I thought about it for a moment, and then I leaned back instead, slumping down in my chair. Emma? He looked down at me, and I saw his hand lift as though he were going to reach out and touch me, but then it fell back down to his knee, and he just didn't. What's wrong? I don't know if I can do this, was my simple answer. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not a public figure like you. I don't have the answers to all these questions. I don't know how it just flows off your tongue like that. I don't know what I want to do for Astoria. I guess I didn't plan this as well as I thought. Emma, he said my name in a completely different tone this time. First of all, this was just practice. For something that's happening tomorrow, I probably should have practiced sooner. We've been a bit busy, don't you think? Too busy to prepare for the job that I'm hoping to get? He rolled his eyes. You're prepared to do the work, that much I know, and you can't compare yourself to the way that I or others speak off the cuff. We were raised for it. I've been watching my father make these speeches my whole life, not to mention the people of Parliament, occupational hazard of being a royal in childhood. I smushed my lips to the side of my mouth, I suppose, but it doesn't make me feel any less crappy. Listen, there was a brief moment of silence, and then he put his hand facing upward on the top of his knee, welcoming mine on top of his, so I put it there. He wrapped his fingers around my hand and squeezed lightly. Tomorrow's going to be great. Don't let your fears get your mind all in a twist. You're an extremely passionate woman with intelligence and drive coming out your ears. I furrowed my brow, narrowing to just one eye, and show him my skepticism. I guess. Besides, he snapped. The idea was coming to him like flipping a light switch on. When Anne-Marie gets there along with Frank, everyone will see that you've been right all along. His voice perked up. If they come. When? I rolled my eyes. Okay, fine. When? Atta girl. Edward grinned, and I averted my eyes to the side to avoid showing him the slight blush rising in my cheeks. They're trying to prepare her, but it's going roughly. Chapter 27. Debate Day. Edward. We should have hired an event planner, I grumbled, pacing back and forth in the Oh, I did that wrong. Oh. This is from Emma's perspective, but I wrote that it was from... I found a typo. I need to fix this. That's not right. Whoops. Beeper. This is Emma's perspective. Bad Sasha work. Oh, no. We should have hired an event planner, I grumbled, pacing back and forth in the makeshift backstage area that we created for the debate. Edward tilted his head. Really? I think Sarah Beth's doing a brilliant job, and if you don't think so, you shouldn't let her hear you. She's working really quite... Oh, I know, I shot back. And yeah, she's great, but being my best friend and being the person keeping everyone in check means that she isn't here to shake the nerves out of me when I feel like puking. Edward grimaced. That, he cleared his throat. Doesn't sound like something that I can help with. Seeing as shaking a young lady such as yourself would probably get me cancelled. I rolled my eyes. But... He stepped in closer to me, face to face, staring down as I looked up to make eye contact. I can offer a hand. I could feel his hand reaching out for mine, but instead of taking it, he just held the back of his hand and let it brush against mine. It was subtle, but electric. I looked into his eyes, made me feel like he might kiss me. I couldn't tell if that would make things better or worse. Would kissing me for the first time since I'd kissed him on election night make me calm or make me faint? It didn't matter, because that hadn't been in the cards anyway. What was Edith walking up just at that moment. Oh, hi. Hi, good morning, my sweet angel. We're almost done. Oh, good nap, baby angel. So proud of you guys. Not your girlfriend, she mumbled, shaking her head. You kids almost ready to go on? Edward took a large step back. I'm not going on. I've done my part for today, he smiled. And the meet and greet was a huge success, Edith added. I haven't seen that many people around here in, well, Lord knows how long. Emma, are you ready to get out there and give Belle what for? Ma'am. A deep voice came from behind her. It was Keating. Jeremiah Bell was trailing behind him. Great, just what I needed. Edith turned on her heels to see who was speaking to her. Are you suggesting violence? The mayor laughed, and Edith rolled her eyes. Mayor Keating. Her voice had a distinctly annoyed drawl as she spoke to him, not at all like the way she spoke to Edward, who was quickly becoming her pseudo-grandson. You know very well that that is an expression. He chuckled. Oh, I'm just pulling your leg. Excellent. Just what my hip replacement needs. Then nothing. No one said... Thank you for laughing at that, honey. I appreciate the pity laugh. I thought that was a good joke, too. What?
I heard it too.
Yeah, she laughed. She liked my joke. Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate that. Ha ha. Thank you, baby. Then nothing. No one said a damn thing. The most awkward of silences hung in the air as everyone on each side stared back and forth at one another. And finally, Edward spoke up. Say there, Mayor Keating, I've been meaning to ask you if we could set up a meeting, especially one where once Miss Prescott here wins the election. Whoa, my boy. Don't go getting ahead of yourself. If you want to set up a meeting at my office, you gotta go through the proper procedures just like anyone else. There's no skipping the line. And, Keating raised both eyebrows, we don't know that Miss Prescott here is going to be winning this one. Jeremiah has been faithfully serving the people of the 3rd District, and they have no reason to vote him out. Then why'd we tie? I finally asked, unable to keep my mouth shut. And Jeremiah looked to Keating for a reason, like he had no idea what to say without the approval of his boss. Keating narrowed his eyes at me, his hands meeting over his large belly, fingertips tapping one another. Well, Miss Prescott, I don't rightly know. Perhaps we need to look into the validity of those votes from the initial election? Edward gasped. You can't possibly be suggesting that she's involved in voter fraud when you, sir, have been hiding my entire country's existence from the people of Astoria for as long as you've been mayor, and you're... I grabbed a hold of Edward's arm and I pulled him back, not wanting to let the cat out of the bag about what we knew on Keating's grandfather, the fire, or the emails with my mom. Vernon Keating just shrugged. I'm not suggesting anything. And as far as your... He snorted quietly, looking Edward up and down like he was disgusted that he was even there. Country goes. I don't even know what you're talking about. I could feel Edward's pulse quicken as I tightened my grip on his wrist, and of course I understood. It wasn't as though I didn't want to scream at this man standing face to face with us either. I wanted to tell him everything that we knew, and me being that tiny thorn in his side for the last few months was just the beginning of the end for him. But I didn't say that. No, I kept my lips tightly pressed together and I turned my gaze on Jeremiah Bell instead, choosing to focus my energy on the debate rather than the verbal altercation with someone who had no interest in respecting the law anyway. Mr. Bell, I really wish you the best out there. And then I turned and I simply walked away, not worrying about who was left standing there. I couldn't stay another minute and risk crumbling before the debate even began. I could hear the clack of Edward's heels as he came after me in his fancy pants shoes. "Why did you stop me?" he whispered when we were out of earshot. "If Anne-Marie comes through, I want to see the shock on his face when we expose him in front of everyone. From the stage." My teeth were clenched as I said the last words, thinking of the vindication that it would be for my mom. "When?" Edward repeated his usual line. And I met Jeremiah Bell on stage not 10 minutes after speaking to him and Keating. Katie Creedmoor from the Channel 9 News moderated our debate, pitching questions back and forth between us. He answered one, I answered one. It wasn't nearly the bloodbath that Edward had provided in our mock debate the day before, but no one would have called it a victory either. At one point, I lost myself staring at the back door, willing Anne-Marie to come through it, when I heard, "Miss Prescott." It was Katie Creedmoor asking for my attention. "Sorry," I bit down on my lip, hearing the disapproving mumbles from the crowd. Daydreaming mid-debate probably wouldn't win me any supporters, but still, my platform was solid. As a born and bred historian with a small business here in town, a third-generation small business owner here, mind you, but my eyes are set on the future of our great city. I'm calling for economic growth through heritage preservation and environmental conservation. We can show the world what Astoria has to offer, both historically and naturally, by providing support to the small businesses along the pier and other culturally relevant places in town. We can bring the tourists back and boost the economy for everyone. Jeremiah, however, spewed out the words that couldn't possibly have come from him. I had never heard anyone running for office in Astoria speak the way he did standing next to me on stage. "The great city of Astoria is a cultural hub for the Pacific Northwest that is well respected by people far and wide. We've maintained the respect of those in the greater Clatsop County and beyond by being a beacon of morality, consistency, and hope. We're the lighthouse standing tall in the storm. In my tenure as your city council member, we've faced challenges, but more importantly, we've seized opportunities. We've worked tirelessly to bolster our local economy, supporting our cherished small businesses and fostering an environment when innovation and enterprise can flourish." What? I wanted to scream. Not a word of what he was saying was true, but I couldn't interrupt him. "We've made strides in preserving the unique heritage that makes Astoria the jewel of the Pacific Northwest, ensuring that our children and their children can enjoy the same beauty and history that have defined our lives. Thank you for your continued support, and let's step into the future with confidence and hope, for Astoria is more than a city. It's a community. It's a family, and there's no place I'd rather be." The applause for him was wild. People loved this guy, and I once again fixed my eyes on the back door, scanning the crowd for the moment when Anne-Marie would appear with her father or something from him to help us make our case. But it never came. We'd gotten our hopes up for nothing. Sad.
The end.
So sad.
Oh, the end.
Poor Emma. It's heartbreaking. I haven't read this in a long time, and I'm sad for her.
Right.
No, but I'm pretending to.
Oh.
This is my pretend cry.
You have your mug?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I opened up the thing. I was like, there's only one mug in here. That's not good.
Oh, they were wrapped separately.
Well, I know.
Oh.
There's not, no other mugs.
Oh, no, I wanted to use mine.
Well, I didn't know.
Yeah. So that's brutal. Poor Emma.
Poor Emma. Wow, wow, wow.
He wowed at Emma's play. Is anyone Team Mayor Keating on this planet? Only Donald Trump. Perhaps J.D. Vance. Definitely J.D. Vance. Oh, God. I didn't even know J.D. Vance existed when I made Mayor Keating, but now it seems, almost kismet. Yeah.
Boy.
No one is Team Keating here in this family. Absolutely not. Especially not my sweet baby Angel, huh? No.
She was cheering for him.
Nuh-uh, she's Team Emma. Are you Team Emma, honey? Yeah.
What team sorry.
All right, so we will see you all tomorrow, and then we won't have book club on Christmas, obviously, because we'll all be opening presents Christmas morning. Yes. Oh, she's Team Sarah Beth. Okay, you're Team Sarah Beth, honey?
Well, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Sarah Beth is very
all
sweet.
Team Sarah.
We're all Team Sarah Beth. All right, we love you guys. We'll see you later, and have a great rest of your Christmas Eve. Mwah! Can you blow kisses, honey? Can you say mwah? Mwah! Oh, you're waving? Oh,